Speaking of things we like more than we admit and more than we know and more than we should admit, let's bring on Michael Knowles.
Hey, that's the nicest thing anyone's ever said about me.
In this place, it sure is. It's good. I have to say it's good to see you, though I saw you just moments ago in New York.
That's true. I saw you in New York, although you look much less blurry now. I was seeing two of you over copious martinis in the middle of the night in Midtown.
I have to tell you that if you never do anything else for anybody else ever again, you may have made your life worthwhile by introducing me to the Yale cocktail, something I had never known before.
Should we? I guess we can tell the secret. There's this place in Manhattan, which is the Yale Club,
right,
and they serve a very famous martini. And there's nothing really different about the martini. It's just a regular martini, except that there are two of them. So you order it and there are two. And then what's nice is in the big room there, they have portraits of all the presidents who graduated from some school at Yale. So right. Clinton, Ford, Taft, and both Bushes. There is always a seat available because nobody will sit in front of George W. Bush. That was great. That was a fun night.
It was a really, really fun night. It really was. And we should mention Another Kingdom comes back on Friday. And for the final 3 episodes.
I'm used to getting hate mail. Obviously, we get a lot of this.
Yes.
I got a lot of very angry mail that we didn't post the episode. And instead said, who wants to listen to this interview with you guys? Bring back the next chapter. So that will come back on Friday.
All right. So let's talk about what's coming up. Donald Trump is really, in my opinion, he's in a brilliant political position because he's accomplished so much in the first year that really he now can kind of pick and choose where he wants to go.
Everybody is shocked. I think this is why. I was trying to think of some predictions that we could make for 2018, and I think, Trump will finally become tyrannical, right? That's going to, maybe he'll become tyrannical. Maybe he'll get tax reform. Oh, he already did that. Oh, maybe he'll defeat ISIS militarily. Oh, he already did that. On and on and on and on. The only thing, obviously, they're going to hang their hat on is that Trump will be impeached, Mike Pence will resign, the House will elect Hillary Clinton Speaker, and then she'll finally become the president.
And all will be well.
That prediction is as likely to come true as all of the other ones for 2017. And I think there are a couple actual predictions we can make now.
Okay.
I try not to forecast the future with Donald Trump because it is impossible.
Yeah, and that's true. He does the unexpected. Yeah.
But I do think we can finally see campaign themes emerging. You saw this, Donald Trump finally signaled this. So we know that the Democrats are going to run on sex. Why are they going to run on sex? Because their heads are in the gutter. Why else? Because Donald Trump has had an extremely successful first year. So they can't run on the economy being in the doldrums. The economy is currently at levels that Obama's economists said were impossible to reach again.
Right.
Foreign policy has been handled very ably. Not only have we not started a nuclear war or Armageddon, but things seem to be going pretty well. He pulled us out of the Paris Climate Accord. We were told that would destroy the world. It hasn't. He repealed net neutrality. We were told it would destroy the world. It hasn't. All of their hysteria hasn't come through. So what can they do? The only thing they can do is appeal to sex and call every man in America a rapist and try to make that stick to him. He has just signaled, just within the last day or two, his response to this campaign theme, which is he tweeted out and said, quote, Democrats are doing nothing for DACA, just interested in politics. DACA activists and Hispanics will go hard against Dems. We'll start falling in love with Republicans and their president. We are about results.
Ah, wow.
And this is a continuation of his campaign theme, one of his campaign themes from 2016, which is that he is about action. Politicians are all talk and no action. And I think he's going to contrast that. He's going to shine a light and say, look, the Democrats have to run on this tabloid trash because they have no accomplishments whatsoever, and everything they predicted hasn't come true. I think this is a great appeal. This is a direct appeal. He's able to do this very well because he feigns ignorance about ideological conflict. So he did this with Chuck and Nancy. He said, I want to make a deal with Chuck and Nancy, but the trouble is they want to raise our taxes and ruin the country. So I don't see a deal. And so I think that is going to play really, really well.
And think about this too, though. He's in a position now where if he puts there's things that he wants to do that Democrats should be on board with, right? By any logic, infrastructure, right? Infrastructure, I'm always dubious because infrastructure funding usually turns out to be graft funding.
Absolutely,
as it did with Obama. That was Obama just threw away $700 billion, right? That was all going to be for shovel-ready projects. Oh yeah, they weren't so shovel-ready. Ha ha ha. So that stuff. But we do need infrastructure. We definitely need revamped infrastructure. It's always going to take some government funding to get that done. So depending on how it's funded, it could be a positive thing. But the point is, it's something that Democrats should be on board with. If he now goes and says, give me infrastructure, and they do their resistance thing, if Chuck Schumer puts on his pink hat and says, oh no, I resist, they're going to look like idiots. Everybody is going to say, well, wait a minute. Don't you guys do anything for a living? The same with DACA. If he says, yeah, I'll give you DACA, but you got to give me the wall, and they say no, it seems to me he can just go to the people and say, I tried to compromise. What am I going to do? So the Democrats are going to be playing to their base, but he's going to be playing to the broader public, I think.
And we know that the Democrats do this already. Chuck Schumer was the lone Democrat voice against the Iran deal. And then the minute that Trump calls to rescind the Iran deal and rip it up, he says, no, we can't do that. Why is that? Because he's just a hack and he's oppositional. That's fine. I sometimes wonder if Donald Trump has trolled the Democrats into trolling Donald Trump to be more conservative. By that I mean, he's a deal maker. He easily could make deals with people. He has some shared goals with Democrats, infrastructure, for example.
Yeah.
And yet, because they oppose him tooth and nail, it's backed him into this conservative corner, which is great for us. I'm pretty pleased with it. And I hope he keeps offering them little olive branches, and I hope that they keep smacking it down. It will only advance our agenda.
I think that's absolutely right. Ben and I had a conversation, I don't know, when we were in Texas. It must be a year ago now. Is it that far?
About 6 months, I think. We were all down there, yeah.
Yeah, and Ben said, what do you see as the good path forward? And I said, well, let's say he gets tax reform and the economy then takes off. I said, then he's going to do stuff that's going to drive you, Shapiro, crazy, like infrastructure and stuff like that. And you're not going to like it. But at the same time, it puts him in this position of power because the Democrats have to play along or die. And so if that happens and if the economy takes off, you're looking not only at a reelected Trump if he lives, if he gets, loses some weight, right, stays alive, but you're also looking at a President Pence. I mean, we'll have a Republican president for years if the economy becomes as strong as I personally think it's going to become.
And if we have to pass some lefty bills or even infrastructure with a lot of graft in it or whatever.
Yeah.
First of all Republicans do this. I once talked to a well-known conservative writer and thinker that I won't name, and he said, well, Bush had to pass Medicare Part D. He wouldn't have gotten elected otherwise. He had to expand certain entitlements. He wouldn't have gotten elected otherwise. If we need to pass an infrastructure bill to get a more good conservative governance, I suppose I can live with that because I don't predict that this will happen in 2018, but I do see it coming down the pike, which is something I thought was impossible with Donald Trump, and that is entitlement reform.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
He signaled this a couple months ago in a speech in Missouri, and coincidentally, at the same time, Marco Rubio and Paul Ryan also signaled a turn toward this. Paul Ryan has been salivating and chomping at the bit for entitlement reform.
That's for sure.
As he came out of the womb and he just started to reform Medicare. And so that is the number one driver of our debt and deficit. The long-term fiscal problems that we face are driven by those programs. Donald Trump campaigned and said, I won't touch Social Security. But then in this speech in Missouri, he reframed it and he said, well, we need welfare reform. We need welfare reform.
Yeah.
Now, these programs, I suppose they are welfare programs. They're handouts from the federal government, albeit ones that we pay into. If Donald Trump can pivot on this, can touch that third rail, he hasn't been afraid of touching other third rails in politics. If any politician would be willing to do it, willing to do what other politicians think is suicide, it would be this guy. If he could do that, it would be the greatest conservative governance probably since Coolidge.
It really would be amazing. And the thing about Trump, as I've said from the beginning, is he obviously learns stuff. He's so weird that he just will step into a situation that he knows nothing about with complete confidence. But he does pay attention. And in this time, it would not surprise me if he had learned that Ryan is right about this. That this entitlement has to be reformed in order to be saved. Right. I mean, I'd probably get rid of it myself. I'm such a cold-hearted Ebenezer Scrooge-like individual.
I just want to throw Granny off a cliff. Isn't that,
exactly. But I mean, even this simple fact that Social Security was framed when people died at 63. That was the average. The lifespan was 63, and it kicked in at 65. So not they just weren't paying the same thing as now when people live to be into their 70s and 80s and can work. If you have to work another 3 years before you get it, that's not gonna kill people. That's not the worst thing in the world when life is much longer than it used to be. I think it's possible. I don't think it's possible in a midterm election year.
Certainly not. I don't think he'll touch it before 2018, before the elections in 2018. Yeah. But you are right. He does learn things. And the evidence of his learning things is to compare President Trump to candidate Trump, to compare the things that President Trump says and does to the frequently insane things that candidate Trump said and did.
He had no idea what he was talking about. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and now he does. All right, one last thing. I think we have to pin it. What do you think? Give us a guess on the 2018 midterms.
I'm withholding much judgment. The one thing I know is that we have to distrust the consensus. Yep. So the consensus view is that we're going to get blown out. We're going to lose the House by a lot. We might lose the Senate. I just don't buy that. I don't even really buy much public opinion polling in the age of Trump because it is so taboo. It is so unfashionable to say that you support this guy, even as a Republican, even as a conservative, that I think that silent majority that has cropped up during the Richard Nixon's time, during Ronald Reagan's time, I think we could see that again. And so my only prediction is that if Democrats make gains, they will be much more modest than is being predicted right now by the mainstream media. But if we get 4% economic growth in 2018, I just don't see us really losing, despite all of the historical record that shows the incumbent party losing seats in the midterms. It could be a brand new day.
I hate to say it, but I'm on exactly the same page. I'm not willing to predict it yet, but I kind of suspect it's going to be much different than people say it is. All right, Knowles, what's on the show today?
So today, obviously, we're singing about the 9th day of Christmas when the Shah 2018 Make Iran Great Again campaign was launched. On the 9th day of Christmas, the Iranians gave to me the death of Ayatollah Khamenei.
All right, sounds good. The Michael Knowles Show is up next. Thanks a lot, Knowles.